What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes Academy, where I tell you everything there is to know about all the modules in this game. And today we are doing Who's On First. And the reason this video is coming out so late is because I really hate this module. I wish I had a better reason. I wish I could blame the move or something, but no, this was straight up. I just was dreading this particular video since I started the series. And here we are. So the good news is it'll all be easier from here. Let's get over the hump here. So first off, if you're a new player and you're wondering why I hate this module so much and you've never seen it before in your life, the way this works is you'll get a text display that'll have 6 buttons under it. And so, well, you can see the steps here. So the first thing you're going to do is read the display, and that'll tell you which button you have to read. Not press, just read that button. And then based on the label on that button, then you'll figure out which button to push. So again, I mean, there's a little bit of a twist in there, but that doesn't seem too bad just yet. And if I pull one up so we can see what it looks like in practice, once I load in here, it doesn't look too intimidating at first, although you'll probably notice something interesting about how these buttons are named, and that's actually a great example. We've got UR and UR, and there's a whole lot more of that to come, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So this text up here is the label. This one says LED or LED, depending on how you read it, which means that you'll look at this middle left button in this case, which is UR, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. Again, you have to spell it out. We'll look at that here in a minute. And then, so you'd go into the manual and you'd look at the pattern for this button, and in this case it actually turns out you're just going to hit this button. Makes it nice and simple. And if we go over here, so the display is hold on, which means that you're going to read the bottom right, which is why I started hovering it right away. That's how I remember which pattern I need to use. And then so this one is actually also going to be pretty straightforward, but in that case it was a different button that we had to press from the one that we were reading. So yeah, that's at a very high level, that's how the module works. And so the thing that makes it difficult that I've been complaining about so much is, well, actually, okay, there's two different things. There's one thing that makes it difficult for casual players or playing the game normally, and there's another thing that makes it very difficult, by far the hardest module to speedrun. So if you're just a casual player looking at this, the thing that makes it difficult is that they use so many homophones, so words that sound the same as other words. And so we ran into that a little bit earlier with UR, spelled Y-O-U-A-R-E, versus UR, just 2 letters, the letter U and the letter R, which is kind of the whole theme of this module, and that's why it's called Who's On First. The idea is to have your expert says something, or your bomb diffuser will say one thing, and your expert will hear that and interpret it differently from how they were supposed to. So for example, if you look at the display and you see the letters LED and you say LED, then your expert can look at LEAD, read that as LED, and then tell you to look at the bottom right button instead of the left middle button, and then you go kaboom. Or if you get LEAD and you say, well, I'm not going to read it as LED because I know that conflicts with something else, so I'll read it as lead. And then your bomb expert reads LEED as lead, and then you go kaboom. And I'm not going to sit here and list out all of them. There's a million. We've got your and your, we've got there, and there. We have, like I said earlier, UR with UR. Red, read, lead, lead. You get the point. There's a million of them. It's just cruel. My favorite one out of all of them is the display can say the word blank, or it can be blank. Or it can say the word nothing, or it can have nothing on it. That one I really like. That one I think was clever. But anyway, so that's what makes the first step difficult. And then the second step is just more of the same. So these are all the patterns that you use. So again, in step 1, once you have figured out which button to read, then you'll come down to this page, and based on whichever button you read, that's this in this left column, and then you'll go through this list to the right of it in order and push the first button that appears in the list, like it says right there. So if I figured out the display and I read the corresponding button and that button said ready, then you would push the first button in this list that appears on the module. So if one of the 6 buttons says yes, you're just going to push that immediately and you'll be done. If none of them say yes, then you start looking for the word OK on any of those buttons. And if none of them say yes, none of them say OK, then you go on to what, and so on down the line. And so this is what makes it an absolute nightmare for speedrunning, is you have to memorize all of these patterns. That's, oh wow, my mouse did not want to highlight all of that text. There it goes, it caught up. But yeah, you have to memorize all of this. Asterisk. You have to memorize at least the first portion of most of these patterns. So actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's more of a level 4 thing when we talk about speedrunning. For the casual players, or I guess serious players, anyone who's playing this game normally, there's going to be more confusion in this step as well, because we have UR and UR, those came back. We've got your and your. It's not as bad. This one has a really bizarre, there's what with a question mark, and there's, where is it? There's what without a question mark. I can't find it right now. There it is. There's what with a question mark and what without a question mark. Although one saving grace there, and this is more of a serious player thing, but these patterns are actually split into 2 separate blocks, which you can sort of see that all of the top half patterns all have the exact same length. They all line up on the right edge here. And then this bottom half of the patterns, these all have the same length and they all align. And the reason for that is because the first 14 patterns all have the same 14 words. So from ready through press, all of these are the same 14 words, just in different orders. And then from you down to like, these are a different 14 words, all in various orders. And the words are the same as these button labels. So one thing that does make this a little bit easier is that, at least for that one specific what with or without a question mark, is that the 2 whats are in separate pools. So it's impossible to have a bomb where you'll never have both of those buttons at the same time. And none of these patterns will have what with a question mark and what without a question mark. It's always either one or the other. So technically you don't need to tell them apart, but that's going to be very confusing if you try to remember this one random exception. So generally, just if you're playing this to win as opposed to playing it for the chaos that it creates, then the way to solve the module is to just spell everything out letter by letter. But obviously then that kind of defeats the purpose. Once you start doing that, this module in normal play, this module isn't that big of a deal. It can be kind of silly sometimes, but it's not going to cause you to blow up once you just start reading things out letter by letter. But now we get into speedrunning as we start talking about more of level 4 stuff. And so the reason this is a disaster for speedrunning, like I said, you have to memorize 28 different patterns that are up to 9 words long. Technically, they have 14, but you can truncate them shorter, which I'll talk about here in a second. So there are 197 words, I think, is what it comes out to with all of the optimizations. You have to memorize a total of 197 words between these 28 different patterns. And they're all the same words, just in different orders. So like one that I still mess up a lot is nothing versus yes. They have the same 4 words at the start. It's right, okay, middle. And then down here we have right, okay, middle. So just these first 3 are in a different order, and then middle's the 4th one for both of them. And because of the way that I memorize them, that is, I mean, that's going to be a pain no matter how you memorize it, actually. I'm not going to pretend it's my fault specifically. So yeah, this is, again, by far the most memory intensive module. It's just flat out the most difficult. If I don't have the number offhand, but I would guess probably more than half of bombs that I blow up is because of this module. because unless you're really rigorous about actually memorizing them straight off of this page or what off of whatever other document you have, if you just try to learn them by playing them a bunch, what can happen is that you'll remember the first couple words in a sequence really well, because most of the time, if you in any given sequence, the most likely words to solve it will be the ones at the start. Like if I read a button that says ready, there's a pretty good chance that like within the first three words, one of them is going to show up because there's only 14 options and there's 6 buttons. So it's roughly a 1 in like 40%, I think, ballpark, about a little over a 40% chance for any word to be on it. So by the time you go through the first three words, that's about an 80% chance that you'll have it. So if you try to learn these sequences just by playing the game a bunch, you'll memorize the first couple words in every sequence, no problem, because those are the ones you keep hitting. And then when you're doing an actual run and you're on world record pace, it's going to give you one that you have to memorize an entire 9-word sequence to get the last one right. And then you're not going to remember it because that never happens. It's actually less than 0.1% chance that it'll go to that the correct button to press will be the 9th one in the sequence. I think that has only happened to me once that I know of. It's probably happened more than that, and I just got it wrong for a different reason and didn't catch it. It's only happened one time that the sequence went to the 9th word, and I knew it to the 9th word, and I got it right, even though it gave me the 9th word. So that specific event, having a 9-word sequence in Who's on First, is far and away the most difficult part of speedrunning this entire game. So in terms of how you memorize this, the first thing you want to do is make the sequences as short as possible, like I was saying. These are all 14-word sequences. You don't need to memorize all 14 because there's a total of 6 buttons that will be choosing out of these 14 possibilities. So the worst case scenario is that the 6 buttons you have are the last 6 words in the sequence, which means that the last 5 words in the sequence will never be the correct answer. Because, again, so these are 14-word sequences, so the worst case is that the 6 buttons are words number 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. I'm counting on my fingers off camera. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9. So the worst case scenario is you'll need the 9th word. So 10 through 14 you can always ignore. The other thing that's really nice for some of these sequences is that if the button label that you're reading off of appears in the sequence, then you can stop after that because you know that label has to be on a button because you read that button to get to this point. So the undisputed champion of this is ughhhh. The first word in the sequence is ughhhh. And again, that you just read it, so it's guaranteed to exist. So ughhhh, you always just press that button and forget about it, and you feel a little twinge of joy that this module is kind to you for a change. Other ones where that comes into play, left, it's the second word. You go right, then left. There's a couple other that I'm spacing on right now. Y-O-U apostrophe R-E goes Y-O-U, then Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. So again, it's the second word. And then, yeah, the other one that does that is what. You go and then what. So again, some of these sequences you don't need to memorize all 14 words. And so all of that taken together, it drops you down to a total of 197 words that you need to remember between the 28 different sequences. And now I think I have stalled for long enough. Oh yeah, I guess in terms of level 5 for world record speed, there's not much to add on top of that. It's just kind of the tip that you need to actually be practicing this from the manual directly or from whatever. Oh wait. Okay, sorry, let me finish my thought. You can't just practice this by doing it in game a bunch because that's not going to let you hit the extremely rare sequences. You need to actually memorize it out of the manual. And so that begs the question, how do you actually memorize this stuff? Because if you just try to remember these lists as they're presented to you with the same words repeating over and over in different orders, you're gonna have a bad time. So what most speedrunners do for this game is they associate each of the different words to a letter of the alphabet. There's a total of 28, so I think you use like period and question mark for the two extras because there's only 26 letters. But basically the idea is you replace each word with something else, so a letter for these, and then that gives you an acronym that you fill out with something that is more memorable. That's not the way I memorize it, so I can't really give any examples of that. I just know that's the general idea, is you replace each word with a letter, and then you use those letters to spell out like an acronym or something that's more memorable. The way I do it, because I am a real gamer, and I have way too many hours played in Rainbow Six Siege, is I associate each of the words with a operator, a character in Rainbow Six Siege, and then I sort of use those to tie together and build out a scene. The idea between both of these, the letter way or the siege operator way that I use, you want to go from these specific words that are very easy to confuse and replace them with something that has a lot more different things that you can tie into with your memory. So like a letter that can be represented by any word that starts with that letter. And for operators in Siege, like the way I do it, that can sort of create a whole scene of how a round would play out. So I can tie that to like a certain map with certain objectives, and then like some operators are using their gadgets versus like playing in certain positions that I have memorized from playing this game so much, and things like that. Like it just gives you a lot more different ways to memorize this and to turn it into something memorable, and then memorize something that's much easier to keep in your head than just the same words in a million different orders. So to be a little more concrete with at least the way I memorize it, because again, I don't know what people use for the whole letter method. If we just look at this first pattern for ready, the way I remember it, so ready is the operator Buck. He's an attacking operator who has a shotgun that can breach things really easily. This is going to be complete gibberish if you don't play Rainbow Six Siege, so I apologize in advance. I probably should have like opened the game to try to demonstrate some of this, but that would be even more complicated and make this like twice as long. So just if you know Siege, great. Hopefully this will make some sense. If not, sorry. I got it. This is how I remember it, so I can't really adjust it because this is just so complicated. It's by far the most difficult module. Anyway, I'll get off my tangent. So ready is Buck, and I remember this as Ash, which is yes. Blows up a castle barricade. Castle is okay. To peek Rook, who is what, and Smoke. Smoke is middle. And then Sledge upstairs, Sledge is left, uses his hammer to break a hole in the floor so that Capito, who is press, and Thatcher, who is right, can peek Mute, who is Smoke. So, and then Buck is also upstairs, peeking off the same hole. So again, it's if you don't play Siege, that was probably complete gibberish, and I'm sorry. But if you do, hopefully you can see how I kind of created a whole scene there with like different players are doing different things. It's like some are using their gadgets, some are just taking straight up gunfights, and that's all set in the what's it called? They it's on Chalet. When I made this mnemonic, it was before Chalet got reworked. So at the time, the site was Kitchen and Gaming, or Kitchen and Trophy Room. Sorry, the first floor site, the main one you defend on old Chalet. Now the map's gotten reworked, so I haven't bothered to change the mnemonic because then I'm gonna have to rememorize so many things. Because I have like old Hereford, old Chalet. What else is in here? Border, old Canal. A bunch of maps that they've changed and messed up my mnemonics. And I was like, I'm just gonna go with the stuff I already have memorized because I still remember the old maps, so I can still work with them even if they don't exist in the game anymore. But yeah, all that is to say, the idea is you want to replace these words spaghetti on the page with something that's a lot more flexible that you can memorize in different ways. So whether that's letters that you then memorize as any other word that starts with that letter, or Rainbow Six Siege operators that then I memorized by their gadgets, where they would play, the sounds their guns make, all any of these other options. So that's probably enough stalling. Let's try to actually do some in practice. And I'll admit, this is the only video so far that I've actually had to practice for ahead of time. I spent like half an hour before I started recording just playing this bomb over and over again to try and actually get my shit together so I could do this. Alright, so right away we've got one of the easy sets. So says means you read the bottom right, which is what, and that's one of the two word sets. It's and then what, and we don't have so the answer is going to be what. Over here, red, RE80, will be the fourth button, so middle right. I also remember them numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then I just remember a number that associates with whatever's in the display. So red is button 4, which is middle right, which is the frost set for next, which is Doc, Peaks, Hibana. Oh wait, okay, Doc is what with a question mark, so that was the first word. Alright, and here no is 6, which is left, and again this is another easy set. It just goes right and then left. And there's no right, so we just go left. Your is 4, Thatcher set, Ash hits a Capkin trap. Oh boy. See, this is why I had to practice it, because I still barely remember it. So Ash hits a Capkin trap, Buck drops Capito. Wow, yeah, I might have to cheat for this one. Ash hits a Capkin trap, Buck drops Capito in front of Tachanka, and then I think it's what, but I'm going to double check so I don't blow myself up. Right, so yeah, Ash hits Capito, Buck drops, or hits a Capkin, Buck drops Capito in front of Tachanka, and then Twitch and Rook fight. So yeah, it is what. So I was right, but I'm really rusty on these, and they are by far the most difficult. So I just wanted to double check that. Don't embarrass myself in video. I'm probably going to blow this bomb up anyway, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Oh boy. I think this is here. Okay, cool. I try to pick up the pace a bit. This one's Blackroot set, Bandit dies Diffuse, Valk, and Echo. Nope. Alright. So yeah, that's why I hate this module with a burning passion. It's so much to try and keep in your head all at once. And back when I was actually like running this game for world records, I had it memorized, but that's been like 2 or 3 years at this point, and I have not been staying on top of it as much as I should have. I've been thinking about trying to get back into it and knock the world record down a little bit more, so I might start picking this up and learning these for real. But for now, this is what we're stuck with. Well, hopefully I can at least finish one of these bombs. Oh hey, this is actually... Okay, 3-1, never mind. Thought it was a good distribution, it was not. Oh no, this is one of the two that I always mix up. It's Sure and You. These ones are really close in my brain. This is Bandit and then Valk. Yeah, okay. I think Cav. It's the third word and I forgot it. That's what we love to see. Low-key thought I was about to blow myself up there again. Alright, that's a breath of fresh air. That's an easy one as well. Alright, and now it's giving me some nicer ones. Oh, well, I spoke too soon. Okay, that actually wasn't too bad. Yeah, okay. Doubted myself on that one for a little bit, but we're good. Thermite set, so Sledge hits a castle, so Ash can peek, Smoke, and Rook. None of those are in it. Oh boy, okay, and now I'm just going to check it. Sledge hits a castle, Ash can peek, Smoke into Tachanka. That's why that's wrong. Okay. Yay, I only had to cheat a couple times. I don't even remember how many times I peeked at the manual. But yeah, I mean, once upon a time I could do this without having to check the manual. I definitely do not have that level of memorization anymore. So yeah, I mean, Narwhal was absolutely better at this module than I was. You can see he's ahead of me on the leaderboard with 3:05, so 25 seconds for all four modules. I was just barely behind him. I was just happy I broke 3 minutes on this. I was never able to beat him on it. But yeah, oh my god, we're already at 25 minutes. I mean, I knew this was going to be long because it is the hardest module to speedrun. I didn't realize it was going to run that long. So I think that's about everything I have to say about this module. It's horrible, it's sadistic, and I wish it would burn in hell. But it's part of the game, so we grin and bear it and pretend everything's fine. Woo! Alright. Well, thanks for if you stuck around for all 26 minutes of this rambling nonsense. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. Hopefully, future ones will come out on time and be a lot shorter and be a lot less emotionally damaging for me. Next up is memory, which I'm actually pretty excited for. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.